Hi, everyone. Welcome again to Spirit Rescue Talk. I'm Amy Major, and of course, you know my wonderful co-host Jordan Start and Cynthia Maroon. We actually have a really special guest with us today, Rikesh, who I've known for a few years now. And we're going to have a really very interesting, very eye-opening conversation today, a lot of topics that we want to discuss. But before we do, I'd like Rikesh to kind of say a little hello, tell us a little bit about himself. I do know he is an energy worker and a medium, but he is so much more than that. And I'd love you to hear a little bit about his story. Hi, Rikesh. How are you?
Hi, everyone. I'm doing very well. How are all of you?
We're great. We're excited to be here. We really are. I just have this weird feeling it's going to get really good with this conversation today, because I think you have a lot of wisdom to share, just not just with your own personal experience, but with the clients that you've worked with in the past as well, and kind of seeing their journey and the things that they've gone through. And the biggest statement to make is you really never know what you're going to get.
It's very true. It's very true. And things change and shift so often, and you just kind of have to roll with it. And that's sort of the most challenging part, is to accept the changes that are coming and happening in your life, and really just flowing with it and not fighting against it, because that will take you on a whole other timeline and direction. But yeah, I mean, as you mentioned, I am a medium and energy practitioner trained by yours truly here, Amy Major. And very grateful for that, and knowing her in my life, because it really did shift me in a completely different direction. But it's funny though, because up until the end of 2024, if you asked me, what are you? Who are you? Even if I asked myself, who am I? That answer would have been, I am a medium. I am an energy practitioner. I am a father. I am a husband. But that answer changed, because once I started to ask myself that question at the flip of the calendar year, I was pulled away from all of it. I was, doing well in a podcast. I was working as an energy practitioner and medium, and it really did pick up in the fall and winter leading into the new year. And then all of a sudden, every single time somebody reached out to me for this type of work, I something inside of me was telling me, no, you can't do this right now. So now when I ask myself that question, who are you? What are you? It's been empty. It's been blank. I didn't know what the answer to that question was anymore. It was leading me to this abyss. And so that's when I realized that I just needed to step back from everything, and just listen to myself and do my own healing work. And that eventually that answer will start to fill itself in. So the last 6 months, I've really been pulled towards Mother Earth, and I've been pulled towards grid work and working with ley lines, and I feel that that's where I'm shifting towards, where my soul is telling me that I'm here on a mission, like many others, to hold a frequency and to unlock a frequency that the ley lines hold, and that if I'm holding that frequency, I can also radiate that frequency outwards. And as we do our own inner work, we can ripple outwards, just like the waves in the ocean, and it will reach to everyone, because we are all connected beyond what we understand. And the work that I do internally is also the work that will trigger others to do work within themselves. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. So I am definitely still a medium, and I'm definitely still an energy practitioner. And I know that will come back to me at some point throughout this journey. But right now I'm being told to really start holding and integrating all of these new energies that are flowing to Earth, and really start radiating that outwards. So that it's funny, because as soon as I realize that, I get an email from Amy saying to come on this show. So so it's funny how the universe works.
It absolutely, and I think, the synchronicities are there. And I think they're just there to keep you on the path and to reassure you that everything is working out just fine. You know, they always say you're exactly where you need to be, exactly when you need to be there. And it's very interesting. And you know, I was actually getting some downloads of information when you were talking, like, oh, I gotta write this stuff down as you were talking, because you were saying, you know, you were looking for an identity title, really, when you were thinking about it, saying, who am I? Who am I? And I think it's okay to actually give us the approval, to like give us the invitation to say, yes, we're allowed to say we are everything. And we need to stop putting ourselves in a box or creating a title. Titles are more for formalities, to kind of say, this is what we've learned and this is the skill set we're using right now and this is who I am. But to use that and actually encase yourself in a stereotypical box of saying, this is who I am, this is who the only person I can be, limits us and definitely limits our consciousness. And when you say I'm a medium or I'm an energy practitioner, that is true. But what you might be doing unconsciously is saying the very specific type of medium you are, or the specific type of energy practitioner you are, you're creating more restriction around it by saying, this is all I am, or this is what I'm doing right now. And when the universe, your guides, or your higher self shift you into becoming another form of yourself, because we're moving along with the cycles and rhythms of life in the universe and the stars and the constellations and everything that's shifting, we shift along right with it. And so when we shift into another aspect of the same principles of being a medium or an energy practitioner, but we just do it in a different way, we think we're changing. Whereas we're not changing, we're just seeing ourselves in a different way and a different skill set and different tools we already hold. We're just being able to now look at it from a different perspective and a different vantage point of now riding that wave of change along with everything else. And I think that's exactly what happened to you. But now you were left in the void. I'm saying, I don't know who I am anymore, because like that no longer applies because things have shifted for me. So now we're trying to regroup and saying, okay, what are we? What are we? Who are we? Who are we? What are we going to do? What are we going to do? We need to have an identity. And I think that is just the human behavior within our consciousness to find an identity so the ego can anchor its consciousness into the human experience. And that's very normal too. I just don't want people to feel like it limits them from doing so many other things. And to say, okay, this is who I'm going to be for now, great, but be fluid, be flexible, be willing to change, and to not be attached to the old identities that you held before. And I think some of us were talking about that a little bit earlier too, as far as
I have a way of another way to look at it is what I hear, Rikesh, what you're saying is like before it was kind of natural, or it was just a way that I looked at myself was in terms of roles, right? I'm an energy practitioner. I'm a medium. I'm a brother, right? I'm a worker at this place. And so to me, it would make sense that the soul wants you to say, no, you're behind that. You're the consciousness that's the way aware of those roles. And we're going to teach you other things that you're going to do because there's this limitlessness about you. And you're more than the roles that you play. And that can be really scary sometimes. And this is going to lead to a question that I have for you, Rikesh.
Yep.
It can be scary because when you yourself in the role, sometimes there's an element of safety in that, especially if you get praised for the role that you're in. So if I'm a really good brother, there's safety for the ego in that. There's safety in the identity of that. And when I'm asked to let that go and go into this abyss or this void of self-exploration, my question to you is, did you grieve with any of the roles that you saw were strengths of yours? Or were you able to let it go and go with the flow of this change? Did it require a certain mindset, intervention, help? What would you say to people who are struggling with that shift?
Yeah, it's just trusting, right? At the end of the day, it's just listening to yourself, listening to your body, and not allowing, well, listening to your mind and ego as well, because as we all know, we go through multiple ego deaths, and births and deaths and rebirths of who we are. And it, at the beginning, for sure, it was challenging for the first couple of months, where, it was hard for me to say no to others, because there's people here reaching out to me who I want to be in service of, but and I know that they're in a difficult position themselves, and I couldn't put myself in a position to help them, because I needed to help myself first. I had to look within, and I had to step back from all of it in order to place myself in a better position to maybe help them in the future even better than I could have if I had helped them before, because you can't force that, right? As much as you want to, I had to just step back, and the words that always came to me was just trust the universe, trust your guides, trust what your body is telling you and what your gut is telling you, and just really step into that. And it was really challenging to step away from those roles as a medium and energy practitioner. And I was literally, at times, when I was meditating in the evening, because not only was I integrating new energies, I was also letting go of these old energies. My body was literally seizuring at times when I was in meditation, because it was trying to let go. And
Mhm.
I, and as much as the mind and the ego and the body fights it, that was my body seizuring, because I was trying to fight it and hold on to it. But I knew that I had to breathe into it and just step into it and let it go. So I
Mm.
was going through that phase for months, where I was, there was a big part of me that was afraid of what was happening. But deep down inside, at a soul level, I knew what was happening, and that I had to just keep allowing those energies to flow, because I was, as me and Amy talked about a couple of weeks ago, I was almost going through this descension phase, where you're being pulled back into all of these old energies, these old self energies that you thought you had overcome. And now you're being pulled back, so that way you can, sort of see it from a different perspective, work through it from a different angle, so that you can truly let go of it at a really, really deep root level. And that's essentially what happened, and the work that I've been doing in the last 6 or 7 months this year. So it's been interesting, but it's definitely, to your point, it's kind of hard to work through that, but you have to give yourself the space and the time to allow it.
Well, I know a lot of people are probably asking out there, how did you know that you needed time for yourself, and how did you know things were shifting and changing for you? What were the clues or the messages that came through to you that knew or told you, I'm not the same person I used to be?
Yeah, and that's a lot to do with practicing meditation, right? I came into a regular practice, and obviously, as a medium and energy practitioner, you're working a lot with your guides and your angels, and archangels, and so on. And there's a few guides that were regulars for me, that were connected to my heritage and religion. And Lord Krishna is one common one that everybody will be aware of as an oversoul. And then another one, Hanuman, who was always with me when I was doing energy work and guiding me through and helping me through those situations, especially with dark, low level entities that I was coming across. And they were the ones that were telling me that it's time for you to evolve. It's time for you to there's more to you, right? And it's going to take time for you to figure that out. And of course, I'm like, just tell me. Why can't you just tell me? It's so much easier, than I can work towards that. But you know how guides and angels and your higher self is, they cannot tell you until you're ready to hear it, and
Right.
and until you're in a space where you can receive it and really integrate it into your being. So that's what really got me to see and how realize what was happening and where I was going with it. it was, getting into deep meditations and working with my guides and angels, because they were the ones that were helping me see where I was at and where I can go. Even though they weren't showing me, they were just kept kind of saying, hold off, kind of keep doing what you're doing, step away from everything, do your own work, and focus on that.
And that could be frustrating, can't it? To finally, it's like, I know what I'm supposed to do. I know what my path is. And all of a sudden the guides come in like, nope, you're going to do something new now. It can be frustrating.
Yeah, because they're like, you were already your old self, and you gained so much life experience from that. And then you went through your dark night of the soul, you went through your awakening, you realized that, mediumship and energy work is something that's in your ancestral lineage, with my great grandfather, and because he was doing it in the 40s as well. I didn't realize that until all of this stuff started happening. And then I become this energy practitioner and medium, and realize all these abilities and start, integrating that into my life, into humanity and the collective consciousness, and doing my part to be in service. So now they're like, okay, so you've been this and now you've been that, but that's not who you are. That's not your most authentic self. So now you need to step back from all of it into this abyss and darkness, so that way you can go deeper into your programming and into your central nervous system and into your roots, so that way you can really connect to who you are as your most authentic self. So I'm like, okay, well, who is that then? Right? But it's sort of a mix of everything, right? I am nothing and I am everything at the same time. I am all of those things, but I'm more, and I'm in the middle of discovering all of that, as we all are, because this journey never stops. It's ongoing, and it evolves constantly as you open yourself up more to energy and to new perceptions. And of course, world events and external factors can trigger certain things in all of us as well. And that just takes you deeper and deeper onto so many different pathways, and it just depends on what pathway you choose to go, which will determine which timeline you end up on, because they're all happening at the same time.
Very true, right, Jordan? And I know that we were going to discuss more about being navigated on your journey and having our guides kind of set the pace for us and help us along with that journey. And Jordan had done a little bit of research of what resources are out there to kind of help explain why that actually happens. Do you want to share some of that, Jordan?
I will, but first and foremost, Rikesh, I just want to acknowledge the journey that you've been on, because what you said there about I'm nothing, but I'm everything all at once, that is profound. Because I think about, just as we were kind of talking earlier about identity and being kind of putting ourselves in these boxes, and to really get to that place in order to say, I'm nothing, but I'm everything, really is shedding the ego in a lot of ways. And ego is not necessarily good or bad. It just is. And I'm just curious for viewers, because, people going through this journey, it's not easy. How did you navigate those shedding of those layers, and to keep yourself, because it sounds like you have a lot of faith. You said like there was this deep inner knowing that was kind of guiding you, but to go into that void and to be like, I'm okay in this, that's a lot for someone, and I would imagine be incredibly challenging for folks.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of fear involved with stepping into that darkness, right? I mean, all of us, I'm sure, have been through the dark night of the soul, right?
Yes.
And everybody, that's why we have substance abuse, and that's why we, some people hurt themselves, some people, do drugs, and there's so many things that people do, narcissistic behavior on the outside. They do all these things to shield themselves from having to go within. They're avoiding themselves and their emotions and that darkness that they have within altogether. But I realized at a really fast pace that the only way is to go through it. You have to go through your darkness because there's so much that you can learn from it. And you're going to go through multiple ego deaths in that journey as well. And that's the thing, letting go of the fear of it all, right? Letting go of the fact that there is darkness within you, and realizing it, and knowing that it's a part of you, that, you know, we're 50% light and 50% dark, and we can't always be light. We have to experience the darkness as well, and integrate that into who we are. So as I was going through that, you know, it's also the realizing what the ego has control of as well. So I realized that the ego is very sneaky, right? And of course I was living through the ego in my old self, you know, always working towards more money and more materialism and all those types of things, and having more status in this world. And then I step away from all of that, and I turn into this person who I'm like, I don't care about money, and I don't care about stuff, and I don't care about this and all of that. It's all about my inner world because it reflects my outer world. And then you do all this work, and then I came to this realization where, oh my God, my ego had control over that version of me too. Right? It's holy crap. And now I'm like, okay, so you're pressing the restart button, right? Yeah, sorry, I don't know if that answered your question, but it's just you have to, you can't take it so seriously either. You have to just kind of go with it and flow with it. And yes, it's going to be frustrating, and yes, you're going to cry, and you're going to seizure in my case in meditation sometimes, and you're going to go through so many different things. But that's sort of the roller coaster of this journey, right? There's going to be lots of highs, but then there's also going to be lots of lows as well, and you have to just accept it and be aware of what's going on, and the part of the journey that you're in, and really going with it, right? Because, you know, I easily could have given into substance abuse again. And, you know, I haven't drank alcohol for 2 years. I could have gone back to alcohol. I could have gone back to so many different things. And I didn't, because I knew that was just, again, me being pulled back into these old energies of my old self. And I had to just kind of work through it, allow it to come in, and also speak to it and understand it, the perspective that it was giving me, and then evolving from it.
That's beautiful.
That's beautiful. That was so well spoken.
Oh, thank you.
But yes, I think that our viewers are probably trying to navigate through their own journey now, and I think they're learning quite a bit from your experiences, and again, understanding the ego death and realizing that the ego has to control everything. And I don't want people to feel like they have to eliminate the ego. The ego is bad nor good. It just is. It's just a form of identity created so that we can understand our place in the world. Because we all want to feel needed. We all want to feel like we have purpose. Otherwise, we're just wandering.
Yeah, and the ego is such an important part of who we are, right? But we have to not allow it to control who we are, but we need to see it as another voice that we have within us, another version of ourselves. And it's a tool. The ego is a tool that we can use in the outside world, in the external world, to navigate through it, because the ego is a very important part of our being. But it's very good at controlling who we are, and taking the reins, right? And that's when you start to chase things in life. And we've all been there, where we're chasing something. But I always say that if you're chasing something, that means it's running away from you, right? So that you're never gonna get it if you're chasing. You have to let go of it, and just work on what's, you know, as a mirror, what's happening within yourself in this world of duality, and because something is always being reflected back to us. So, if somebody pisses you off, if somebody triggers you, you have to see that as a mirror. If you're having trouble with your finances, or if you're having trouble with a relationship, you have to start to realize, okay, well, what is that telling me within myself? What is happening within me that's preventing me from having a better relationship with this person, or having more money flow to me, or whatever the case may be? Because it's something within us. It's easy to blame the outside world, right, and others, and the structures of this matrix, but it really is just reflective of what's going on within us. So that's where my standpoint is, right? Just something triggers me, that means I need to look within myself and really, hold that trigger and listen to that trigger and understand that trigger, so that way I can follow it as a pathway to the root. Because that trigger through your senses is going to take you to the programming, and then that programming is going to take you to the hardware, which is your central nervous system. And then that's where you can start to kind of really at a deep level start to change the programming and the hardware, so that way you can create new neural networks and new pathways within your central nervous system, which will then, of course, change your outer reality as well.
Yeah, it's the energy field. The energy field within is creating an external energy field, which is projecting, and the universe is a mirror, a reflection. And the other side always says, go within. Just like you said, go within when you're looking for answers. And yes, we can find answers through our guides and through our ancestors, and they can help us see from a matter of perspective. But we can't truly see the wholeness of something until we look at it from our own perspective. And we have various perspectives based on the various forms of consciousness that we hold. So our child self may see something very differently than an older, wiser, higher formed consciousness self that will see it. But they're all seeing it from different perspectives. They're all right. They all have value. They're all truth. And that's why I say there are many truths out there. It all depends on the perspective in which you're looking at. I don't think there is right or wrong or good or bad or false or truth. I think the spirit world keeps reminding us that things just are, that we put the labels on them here because we live in a world of polarity. So we're always trying to fight that good versus evil mindset of what makes us a good and pure person compared to what makes us a bad person. And we're allowing that polarity to allow us to judge ourselves. Like you were saying, my ego was getting in the way and wanting me to do one thing and then wanting me to do another. But what was motivating the ego? And that was judgment that you were placing on yourself, thinking one thing was better than the other. And you got to try a few things out to know what feels right and what feels wrong. Because if things just are, and we put the narrative on whether it's good or bad, then we're going to have to feel it out for ourselves to see whether it is good or is bad. We can't have other people tell us what's good or bad. We have the collective consciousness of polarity of seeing what's good and bad, but ultimately it comes down to us. And we're always looking for that guidance from the light to tell us what to do, or what's going to make us a better person, or how we're going to be more successful. But again, I think those answers lie within. They really do.
And patience too, right? When it comes to that as well, because we live in a world where time and space exists. So, it's going to take time, and you're going to need space in order to come to those realizations and get those answers. Maybe on the other side, where beyond the veil, where time and space doesn't exist, those types of things come to you immediately. But we live in the physical realm, so we have to just be patient, and with ourselves and with our guides and with our angels, and with our loved ones and those around us, because not everything's going to happen right away in most cases. And you just have to just kind of keep chugging along and just really truly believe, right? And just be. As my wife always says, we're human beings. We're not human doings, right? We're not here to just keep doing, which is how we're conditioned to be in this reality. We're called human beings for a reason. We're here just to be, like right now, I when I stepped away from all the work, I was like, this is amazing. I'm taking it as an opportunity. And I was like, now I have the opportunity to spend more time with my kids. Now I have an opportunity because now I'm not posting on Instagram and all these things and TikTok. And now that I'm not doing the energy work and I'm stepping away from it, I have the time to cook. I can try new meals in my kitchen, and I can have more time to meditate, and I can have more time to integrate myself into the community. Because I was being told that I was supposed to create my own community with the work that I was doing. But then I was being asked and being pulled into a different community with my children's school and everything. And I finally realized, I was like, oh my God, like it's been knocking on the door, this opportunity to integrate myself into this community. And I've been pushing it away. But I was like, this is the community that I need to be a part of right now. And once I allowed that in, it felt so good to be a part of it, right? And
Mhm.
and that's the thing as well. So many of us we get these opportunities all the time, but we push it away because we think we need to be something else, or we're trying to be something else. But really, we just need to allow ourselves to be present in the moment so we can really receive what's coming to us.
I have a question for you, and I want to give you context first. So, like I meditate almost daily. And I found that, when I really started this journey 3 years ago, I felt like I didn't like journaling before at all. And then once I started this journey, though, I found that it was helpful because I was getting a lot of information a little bit at a time, and I didn't always know what it meant. So journaling helped just keep track. That's why I started, because I just had so many random things happening. But what I realized later that was really, really helpful. And so my question to you is going to be, do you journal, and what have been your observations about how it's helped your journey? Because for myself, what I realized through the breadcrumbing, as we call it, and what information we're getting, is that I noticed that my intuition when I first got it was actually more right than what I thought at the time. And it really helped build more trust within myself, because I had years of entries that I could reflect on. And I'm looking at where I'm at now, and I'm like, wow, I kind of got pinged on that like last year. Wow,
Yeah,
my soul really does know the way. Right.
yeah.
So, do you journal?
I did in the beginning, when I first started this through severe mental health, and coming to these realizations of the dark night of the soul. Then I sort of stepped away from journaling because I came to this point in my relationship with my wife where we opened up to being able to have these types of conversations, and we have these types of conversations daily. And for her as well, it was one of the things that really opened her up. Journaling is amazing, and I highly recommend it. And then we both got to this point where we were almost journals for each other. I don't know if that makes sense, but
I love
we
that.
weren't physically journaling, but we were bouncing those ideas off of each other, and we were growing together, because we evolved, as a couple as well, because we came to the realizations um, of who we are to each other at a deep soul level. And we had our struggles, of course, through this journey, but now we are at a point where we don't journal as much, but we talk a lot with each other because we have that relationship now. So I think that journaling is great, but it also is one step towards another step. another stepping stone, where it's just taking you to this place where you come to these realizations, and something that you can always reflect on. But then it leads you towards this community that you start to find, because as the saying goes, when the student is ready, the teacher will come. And that goes with community and the people that you're seeking to be with on a similar energetic vibration and frequency. All of a sudden, those people will start to flow to you. And once you have that community and those people that you can open up to and talk about these things as being your most authentic self, then journaling and talking with these people, they're all tools that you can use within your tool belt to really grow as a person and grow as a soul and evolve into who you're supposed to become.
Nice.
And I think community is so important, because I've had many students come and sit in my classes, and they would always say, I don't have anyone to talk to about this. And where I started online communities, free chat groups, a lot of things where people can come together to have that reflection from other people's experiences and a little bit of advice, or a sounding board. Someone just to hold space for you when you feel like you want to vent because you're just so frustrated about the experience and you don't really know what to do, but somebody may have a perspective outside your own that kind of helps navigate you a little bit more. So I find community is almost essential in doing this work. I mean, you can do it alone, but who's going to be there to kind of hold your hand through it? You have your guides, you have your angels, and maybe family might understand, but it's nice to be with like-minded individuals that can understand the words and the emotions and the thoughts that come from this spiritual journey, which can, again, be very frustrating for you and for all of us as well. Before we got on, you did speak of a scenario, though, that I'd like us to discuss about the journey, and of course about healing and never knowing what to expect. I'd like you to tell the viewers a little bit about your experience with that particular situation.
Yeah, there was something that happened recently where I was working with somebody back in November, December, and that was the last person that I had worked with when it came to energy work. And of course, there was entity attachments there as well, so things that I had to remove from his energy. And that person that I was working with was a little bit older and was 70 years old, and had recently just passed just yesterday. And one of the things, I was putting it off, like sometimes you just don't know what to expect, right? And you have to kind of expect the unexpected and step into the unknown. But with this person, because it was a close relationship of mine, I was afraid of myself. I was afraid of the unknown. And there was a big part of me that knew that this was a possibility, but it was difficult for me to accept that. So when it comes to this type of work, and when it comes to working with your own demons and your own traumas and wounds, your own resentments and frustrations that you've built up throughout your life, and if you're in a place where you are not doing very well as far as physical health goes, it comes to the point where I had this conversation with them eventually, where I was saying, this is a possibility. Death is a possibility if we do this work. And it's you who has to accept that possibility. And once you accept that possibility, and once you're okay with that, then this is something that we can do together. And I did help him, and I did guide him through energy work, and I went through all of his chakras, and I cleared him to the best of my ability. And I gave him some tools after the fact, and he wasn't physically in a state where he was able to manage those tools and use them on a regular basis. Because at the end of the day, if we can provide the person with all the tools necessary and clear their energy, but if they don't use the tools And if they don't do the work after the fact, which is the hardest part, it's going to lead to an unknown, right? And in this case, it did help him in a sense where he had a better relationship with his loved ones. He came to peace with where he was at in life, and he came to peace and to a different perspective and appreciation for his wife and his kids. And that those last few months were completely different, and that he was living through happiness and love and from his heart versus from his head, where he was always living in a state of fear his whole life. Because he was older, his mom passed away at a really young age, so he was responsible for all of his brothers and sisters growing up. So he put a lot on himself, and he never really gave himself um, the opportunity to live without any of that on his shoulders. So that's what I believe he was able to do in the last 6 months. So
which
so
is a
yeah,
gift.
yeah, just you just don't know where things will go. But
Yeah.
at the end of the day, it doesn't change that we all have something that we need to work on. We all have our own traumas that we inherit, that we bring into this life that we didn't resolve in previous lives. We all have soul contracts. We all have contracts with each other, and why we're here, and what we're helping each other work on. And we need to um, create the space for ourselves to be able to do these types of things and reflect and not get caught up. I always tell everybody that I work with, what do you do before you go to sleep? Oh, I watch TV. I put the kids to bed, and then I watch TV until I'm tired, and then I go to bed. Well, for 10 minutes before you go to sleep, just 10 minutes, right? Turn the TV off and just sit there. Sit there in darkness, in peace and quiet, and close your eyes and just breathe and just observe your thoughts. That's it. Just start with that. Just 10 minutes a day, whether it be in the morning and in the evening, at night, or sometime during the day when you have time. Just sit there and observe your thoughts. Or if you don't have the opportunity to do that, get out into nature, go for a walk,
Mhm.
ground yourself. Just take your shoes and socks off and just put your feet on the grass for 5 minutes. And there's so much energy there and grounding that you can do. And there's so many little things that we can do in our lives that will make a world of difference and open you up to so much. Um, so that's kind of, one of the stories that I have of many, which we probably don't have time for.
I just wanted to bring like a link for our viewers because last week we talked about spirit. Was it last week we talked about spirit rescue? No, we talked about levels. So one of our podcasts we did, I think 2 weeks ago, we talked about the field of spirit rescue and how it's kind of an umbrella term. And one of the things we were talking about is that healers of all different types can actually start spirit rescue with the living. And your story really reflects that there was an intervention for this soul while he was here, removing the attachments, him getting to a place where he can live from his heart instead of fear. The frequency change in that in his life would definitely impact his transition. And so that is a great example of spirit rescue, from the living, and then there's when they've already passed. But I just think that's such a beautiful story that highlights the benefit of taking that weight, off of the soul,
Yeah.
so that their journey is just a little bit more, maybe not so confusing or terrifying or heavy, or they don't feel stuck. So
Yeah.
that is my hope for that soul, for sure.
Yeah, and when I was sending him light yesterday, because I wanted to, open up, a portal into the light and have his gatekeeper sort of and guides and angels, family and spirit sort of be there for him to kind of hold his hand and guide him across. Because the fact is that if we had not done this work together, then when he passed, he would have fragmented,
Mm.
and parts of him maybe would have been earthbound. So, with all that said, he felt more complete. And, when I stepped into his energy yesterday, he said, "Oh, I just want to be with my family right now." Right. And
Mm-hmm.
100% respectfully said, "Take your time, no rush. When you're ready, we can work on the transition." Right. That way you can go fully and wholly onto the other side, and not, being held back and fragment yourself into your daughters and your wife and all these other people, all your loved ones, right? With all your resentment and all those things that you were holding on to. So yeah, I mean, to your point, it makes a world of difference.
Yeah.
So, what's in your future, Rikesh? What are you working on next?
Right. Actually, recently I've been trying to work myself to go to sacred sites. So I obviously I wanna travel everywhere. I want to go to the pyramids. I want to go to Mexico. I want to go to Peru. I want to go to India, which there's so much waiting for me in India.
You're
And
required to take teachers with you, right?
yeah, exactly. But obviously, in the physical external world, resources come in the way. So,
Yes.
but I know that my guides tell me, well, just go to somewhere close by, right? So I'm in Vancouver, Canada. So I've gone to some of sort of the mountainous areas and lakes within my reach, within a couple of hours away, and I kind of make a day trip out of it with the kids, right? There's one place nearby called Harrison Hot Springs, where there's a nice hot spring there. So, and then I was working with a friend who is a shaman, and he trained me on how to create medicine wheels and how to connect to the ancestors of the land, and to connect to the story that they're sharing with you, and how you can connect to the ley lines and start to release that energy, that negative energy that it had been holding up in those lands. Because essentially what we have as humans is we all have a key within us to unlock energy at all of these sacred sites around the world. And and vice versa. There's keys that the lands hold that will unlock so much energy within us, and stories within us that we can connect to. And that's one of the reasons why I think travel is so challenging in this world, is because we're being taken away from our birthright as humans. But that's another story altogether. And so basically my guides are saying, just go to what's close by, right? Do the work there, and then you're going to start to open up to more opportunities, and everything will flow to you and come to you. You'll start to attract it. So there's two places that I really want to go. I'm really close to Mount Shasta. It's about a 20-hour drive from where I am, or a 3-hour flight and a 3-hour drive. So that's a high possibility within the next year. And there's another place called Lake Louise in the province of Alberta, which is super high energy. And I'm being called to kind of soak my feet into that lake and create medicine wheels and to connect to those lands too. So that's sort of where I feel my soul is calling to me next.
Sounds beautiful.
Very cool.
Very cool.
Yeah. I know you'll definitely get there for sure.
Oh, I will.
Wherever our spirit is meant to go is where we'll be.
Yeah.
We have to trust. We have to trust that our guides will help navigate us there, and just realize we need to just let go of the steering wheel and allow them to drive, which is hard to do for some people.
Mm-hmm.
But our guides are navigating us to places and situations and people that will only help our soul grow and to do the work we came to do. So there comes a point where we're just going to have to trust. And I love what you said, go with the flow. And I'm like, yes, just go with it, because life is, about navigating through the flow, the rhythm of natural law, of spiritual law, and where we're supposed to be, the synchronicities of where the universe puts us. So I think, I was so grateful to have you come on our show and to share your
Absolutely.
wisdom with us.
Yeah, thank you so much for allowing me to be a part of the show.
And I'd love for any of you to kind of have your comments and, say hello, thank you to Rikesh for coming on. We love having your comments. If you do want to send us any questions through our email, you know how to reach us. Cynthia, you want to tell people how to reach us?
Yep, spiritrescuetalk@gmail.com. We check them, we look through them, we discuss them, we bring them forward. So please, we love to hear from you.
Yep, we absolutely would. And we look forward to seeing you guys again next time.